Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word. Today is Thursday, July 22nd of the year 2021. Glad you could join me for our few minutes together as we talk about the word and our daily word and what it might mean for us and how indeed it might affect our lives as we live them. It's a beautiful day out today in the midst of summer and the midst of July. So as always, I'm glad you could join me for our few minutes together as we share our lives and talk about Scripture. So I'm trying to pull this up to make sure that it's working. So there we go. People often ask me, how do I choose Scripture? Here we are. Today is day number 329 of our daily word. And people often ask me how I choose the Scripture that I choose. And so sometimes I choose Scripture based on what comes across some of the devotionals that I read early in the morning. Sometimes I choose Scripture based on events, or I choose a Scripture that's a follow-up from our Sunday morning time and that I want to say more about, or one of the scriptures that we didn't talk about on Sunday morning. And sometimes I choose Scripture based on events and based on things that have been appalling to me, or things that I think can't go unaddressed. And so some people say that I should care a little less about what folks say on social media. And that's probably true. Although I have to say that many times what I see people say or post or agree to on social media are people that I hold in high esteem. Or frankly, for some of them, I used to hold in high esteem, and I no longer do. I've taken youth for my 37 years of ministry all over the country. And youth know, kids know, especially in the advent of phones and electronic devices, even all the way back to when they just had the things they listened to music with, or iPods, if you will. They knew there were three words that they shouldn't use in my presence, and that would get their phones or their iPods or whatever confiscated. And those three words were shut up, stupid, and the R word. Now, the R word I'm not going to say, but the R word is a word that we use to refer to people who have developmental disabilities, who are delayed, who might have Down syndrome or something like that. You know, if you were with me, you know what that word is. And I despise that word, especially as a person who's worked with adults with disabilities. Having someone use that word, that R word, is appalling to me. And just the other day, I saw people who I know agree with a thing that called the president the R word. And I was appalled that folks who I used to hold in high esteem used that word and shared it again. And so I got to thinking about all of that in light of that in the Scripture. And so you're familiar with the Matthew 5 text, I'm sure. I decided this morning when I went to look at it, I decided to look at what the Message had to say. Matthew 5, 43 through 47. And we hear these words. You're familiar with the old written law. Love your friend. And its unwritten companion, hate your enemy. I'm challenging that. I'm telling you to love your enemies. Let them bring out the best in you, not the worst. When someone gives you a hard time, respond with the supple moves of prayer. For then you are working out of your true selves, your God-created selves. This is what he does. He gives his best, the sun to warm and the rain to nourish, to everyone, regardless, the good and bad, the nice and nasty. If all you do is love the lovable, do you expect a bonus? Anybody can do that. If you simply say hello to those who greet you, do you expect a medal? Any run-of-the-mill sinner does that. These words that Jesus gives to us, this command to love our enemies, it's the climax of the Sermon on the Mount. And it's this revolutionary commandment. It's probably, in Scripture, the most radical, political, revolutionary words ever uttered. They're full of wisdom about how we're supposed to treat each other and how we're supposed to live our lives with each other. They are this universal call to compassion and forgiveness, unconditional forgiveness, and of the trust of the God of peace. We don't often discuss these commandments, but it sums up, if you will, Christianity. And we've done our best to avoid it, though. And I often wonder why. Or how we can say the words stupid or the R word that I refer to anyone. You don't have to you don't have to agree politically, I suppose, with the president or the former guy or the person before that or the person before that. But this idea that we should love our enemies and treat each other with such respect, I think is what has brought us to this current situation that we're in. We so freely espouse hate. And I wonder sometimes if we espouse the hate because we're afraid of the consequences of loving our neighbors as we love ourselves. Jesus, in this text, reverses the entire state of what it means to live our lives together. He invites us not to hate, not to punish, not to kill. He invites us, he wants us, he invites us, he commands us to live in a very different kind of way. To free ourselves up, to live in a way that we probably don't understand. It's interesting how Eugene Peterson says these words for us. When someone gives you a hard time, respond with the supple moves of prayer. For then you are working out of your true selves, your God-creative selves. This is what God does. He gives his best, the sun to warm and the rain to nourish, to everyone, regardless. If all you do is love the lovable, do you expect a bonus? Anybody can do that. If you simply say hello to those who greet you, do you expect a medal? Any run-of-the-mill sinner does that. And I have to tell you, in reading these words from the Message and from Eugene Peterson, I try to think about, when I get to the end of my day, I try to think about the words that I've said and the actions that I've taken and if I've been loving and the things that I've failed in. And often I get caught up in the things I've left undone in my life. But this particular scripture, these particular words, are really fairly convicting to me. The very last ones. Any run-of-the-mill sinner does that. I look in the mirror and I think, yeah, that's me. Any run-of-the-mill sinner. It's easy to love the lovable. It's easy to say hi to those who say hi to you first. It's easy to agree with those that we agree with politically or whatever it is. All of that's really easy. But when we lower ourselves so far that we would use the R word to anybody, then we've lost sight of what it means to be Christian. We've lost sight of what this great call on God that God has on us to live our lives in such a powerful way. Eugene Peterson says, You're familiar with the law. Love your friend, hate your enemy. I'm challenging that. I'm telling you to love everyone, he says. I'm telling you to love everyone. It's the very nature of God. We're called to be sons and daughters of God, to live our lives in such a way. And I have to tell you, these days of all of this vitriol and hatred and disagreement and all of that is, I have to be honest with you, it's worn me out. I'm over it. I'm just exhausted by it. And I'm exhausted by it for lots of reasons, but a lot of reasons is because people who I like and love and hold in high esteem participate. And I don't understand it. And my heart is heavy from all of that. And I'm exhausted by it and trying to combat it. But yet, the scripture says that we really shouldn't give up. And maybe for me and maybe for you, the biggest challenge we have is to look in the mirror and recognize ourselves as any run-of-the-mill sinner. This morning, as we hear these words, as we're challenged to move to the supple idea of prayer, to have God work it out in us, to recognize where we are in life, and then to love everyone. And, we can love everyone, and we can avoid, if you will, calling someone a name, whatever the name is, especially the name that begins with an R. Here we are in our lives. And I saw it this morning. Someone posted something. We just have to pray that God's going to restore our nation. And that I don't disagree with any of that, except to say that God doesn't work on God's own. God works through us. And if we really believe that and really want the world to be a better place, then it takes me and it takes you to do it. It takes me and you to stop hating and be loving. It takes you and I to stop belittling and name-calling and to love each other. It takes us to do it. God works through us. And I pray that this could speak to us, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir this morning, but maybe one of us might hear it, and one of us might love today in a new way as we live our lives together. So thanks for hearing me out. Thanks for hearing my burden. Thanks for being with me in the midst of my exhaustion in all of this today. I just want us to be and do and act better. And if we can do that, then indeed God's realm will be a better and greater place. So thanks for joining me for our time together. Hope you enjoy the beauty of this day. Hope you are surrounded, as I know you are, by God's love and grace and forgiveness. Know of that love of God in a real powerful way in your life, so real that you can love other people. And know of my love for all of you. And I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.